Hello and welcome. My name is Kristan and I'm joined by my co-host Suzanne Kullberg, and we're talking today on the Over It podcast about, drumroll, don't know if that carried through well or not, but here's hoping, the RCP, the root cause protocol, and explaining a bit more about what on earth that thing is. It's going to be a little bit of a different structure to what we often do. Suze is actually going to interview me. So the root cause protocol, or RCP, if you haven't heard me talk about it before, it's the field in which I'm an expert. I run my own business where I help people one-to-one, and then I am the main leading operations person behind the business that is the root cause protocol, which is based in the US but serves a worldwide audience.
So that's 3 times fast, Kristan.
No. And so it's what I live and breathe. But literally I began because of my youngest daughter, who is now 10. So I've been doing this quite a while. And she was only 8 months old when I started to kind of get into the field of understanding what minerals had to do with her health being not great and all that sort of stuff. I'm sure that will, whether it comes out today or that may be another episode.
It has. I'm just looking for the thing. We covered that in an earlier episode. So while you keep talking, I'll see if I can find it.
It was very early on.
2 or 3, but I'm just going to check.
Yeah.
Or maybe 4.
Yeah. So look at the show. If in doubt, look at the show notes and the information linked with wherever you're listening or watching this, and it'll be there. And
episode 3, the importance of being your own guru. So if you haven't listened to that one yet, once you've listened to this one, circle back, because Kristan talks about her journey with her youngest child and how she discovered the RCP. And what we want to talk about today, what I'm excited about, is like, okay, tell me about the RCP and the listeners, of course, because it's, can I start with like what I gather and then you can correct and we can go from there?
Let's go.
Okay, so long story short, Kristan is multi-passionate and has 2 main businesses. The first one is her own business, which she is the CEO, founder, which is called Supporting Balance. And then the other business is the RCP, or the root cause protocol. They kind of go really well hand in hand, but Supporting Balance is Kristan's, so say baby. Business baby,
fourth child,
and the RCP you would be like I don't, the 2IC, or this the main supporting person of. So they overlap, but they are slightly different. And what I want to ask you about today is, because you do mention it, and you've mentioned it in a number of episodes for our listeners, and people have been like, Suzanne, what's the RCP about? And I'm like, yeah, this is not the question for me. This is the question for Kristan. So here we are.
Yeah.
So your back journey we've covered on that episode about being your own guru. But if someone was to come along and be like, okay, what is the RCP? How would you explain it? Like I was 5.
Wow.
or 12. Okay, I'll give you a little bit.
Yeah.
12.
Honestly, sometimes 5-year-olds pick it up better. So the RCP, it's about looking after our bodies at the root cause, the root level, the biochemistry, getting us back on track from a deep level, and without needing to get all worried about what the biochemistry is for a 5 or a 12-year-old. It's making sure that our cells can make energy and making sure that our cells can clear the byproducts, or sometimes we call it the exhaust, that comes from day-to-day operations, from our metabolic processes that are happening all the time to make us be able to move our muscles, for our heart to beat, for all the different things that are going on all the time. We need energy, and a good huge portion actually of the population don't have enough energy, whether it's that they're fatigued, whether it's that they've got chronic pain problems. For us, it was food intolerances. For others, it may be thyroid problems or hormone imbalances. Like, it presents in many, many different ways, but that is related to not making enough energy or not being able to clear the byproducts as a result of making energy, but also inflammation that results from, often it's down the track of that imbalance. So the RCP is about getting your body to work in balance, rather than often we're working against it, where we're like, oh, I'm just so tired, but I'm going to push through it, or whatever. It's because we're out of balance.
I love this so much. I love the succinct, Suzanne can't English today, succinct way explained that about making energy, about clearing waste so that you can have more energy, and bringing the body back to balance, because so often we are chronically tired. So then we have stimulants, caffeine and things to keep us going. We ignore our bodies and don't rest when we really need it. We stay up too late. And then we take all of these things that then interact with each other and then maybe block up the clearing of things. I'm deliberately being vague with my explanation. I'm trying to stick to the 5 to 12-year-old range. Because both Kristan and I have science backgrounds, so we don't want to geek out on you guys. But when we aren't feeling great, then we tend to take something. And then I know for me personally, and with your story too, that can lead to a cascade of things. And that's why I love this root cause protocol. Like, what is the root cause of you being tired or being burnt out? Or like, I know you talk a lot about the adrenals. And for anybody who is not aware, the adrenals are little glands that sit on top of the kidneys and produce a lot of hormones, and we can inadvertently exhaust them with modern life. And back to the root cause. So you spoke about a few things. Food intolerances was your way in. You also spoke. I'm
English,
having a great day today,
today.
people. Fatigue. What else? I know you mentioned what other kinds of things that lead people to finding the RCP?
Yeah, hormones, big one. Hormone imbalances, whether it's things like thyroid imbalances, which is hormone linked, or like estrogen or testosterone or those sorts of things. Maybe excess bleeding for women who have heavy cycles or wacky cycles, infertility, that sort of thing. Another big one that you and I have talked about is iron. Huge one. So
we need to
many
do a whole
women,
podcast
especially
on that. We've done interviews before, but we need to do a podcast about that iron. And the other one that I've heard you talk about personally would be another good one is B12.
Yep, B12. And also headaches, migraines, neurologically things where we can't focus as much, brain fog, all that kind of, where you may have energy, but just keeping focus, that can be from mineral imbalances. And often we take over the counter like prenatals when we're pregnant or wanting to get pregnant, or multivitamins, depending on where we're at in our life, and they're not helping you. You may think that they are, but they actually put a lot of pressure on your body. And tying all of these things together is the RCP is really about understanding what stress has to do with all of these symptoms and what happens to your minerals as a result of it. So everybody will recognize the heart fluttering, the holding of the breath, if we're really stressed or scared or anticipating something. And it can be from good things, not just from bad stressful things. But if we've got huge anticipation of a really exciting thing coming up, we can be really tired just from the anticipation of it. And that is showing the impact on our minerals. Because if we lose, so we have a stressful event, that triggers the adrenals to let different hormones go, but it also triggers the body to release magnesium from storage potentially, or to utilize what's already in the blood. And along with that, other electrolytes go. So potassium is affected, it's connected with magnesium. These are all things that you may have heard of. Somewhere along the way you may go, and your 5 to 12-year-olds may have heard of it if they've done a biology class or something like that. They're very important electrolytes. But when we're stressed, we lose those. And when we have ongoing stress, that leads to other things cascading in our body, and we lose something called bioavailable copper. If we don't have that, our cells can't make energy, we can't clear the exhaust like I was talking about before. Our iron will appear low in the blood, even though it's likely very high elsewhere in the body, and we can't move it. The transport system stops working the way it should. There's many other things, like you mentioned B12, that's impacted. If we don't have bioavailable copper, our B12 levels will absolutely be affected. And then the sad thing is we take in oral B12, or we have B12 injections, all the different options that exist, multivitamins, whatever. And that will actually impact on our potassium, and that can make us feel worse in other ways. And our adrenals can end up more stressed, and other cycles start to kick in because we're desperately seeking these other things to help us feel better with our iron, with our B vitamins, whatever, and we're inadvertently making it worse.
So a couple of things I want to bring attention to. is if anyone's listening to this and is like, oh my goodness, magnesium, potassium, like, and you're feeling overwhelmed, just breathe. You don't need to understand the ins and outs of it. If what I'm wanting you to take away from this, and I'm sure Kristan is too, is when you take something, actually checking in, how does your body feel? Not what your body should feel, not what's on the packaging or the advertising. And we are not saying here in any way, shape, or form to ignore medical advice or anything like that. But we're just saying, and what I loved about the root cause protocol is getting in touch with your own body. And what this made me think about, and I don't know if I've shared this story with you. So when I fell pregnant with Xanthi, I was trying to fall pregnant. And so I took the pregnancy pre-vitamin thing that they say to
prenatal.
take. Prenatal, that's it. And anyway, got pregnant, was ridiculously nauseous, morning sickness for the first 16 weeks, then basically had a couple of weeks off, and then from week 27 to the end, nausea, vomiting, like overshare. It was very unpleasant the whole time. When I fell pregnant with Casimir, he was my surprise baby. So I was like, oh, when I found out I was pregnant, I literally was like, Jeremy, go to the shop, get me the prenatal vitamins, because I'm pregnant. Oh my gosh, my baby could have all this stuff, and I'm panicking about spina bifida. And I don't know, maybe I'm the only one in the world, but I'm sure I'm not. Anyway, he comes home and he doesn't have the right brand, like the brand that my doctor had told me to get with Xanthi. And I remember tearing strips off him. But at that time, he had just been made redundant. So we had no spare money. So I was like, well, I'm going to have to take this one through to fruition because this is the one that we have. And so I finished it. And then I bought a bottle of the other one, feeling all righteous and pious, like this is the one the doctor said. Like 3 days in, morning sickness, which I had not had with Casimir at all, started vomiting, started feeling terrible. And me at the time was like, I've had no problems with this pregnancy whatsoever. The only change I've made is this medication. And at that time, when I was pregnant with Casimir, as I said, Jeremy lost his job. So I was the only income earner that we had. And I was like, I cannot afford in any way, shape, or form to be sick. So I went and bought the other type that he had just as like, it can't. Anyway, I was not sick. So the moral of the story for this, for people listening in, is our body has wisdom that we don't know, and sometimes we can override it. And it makes me wonder to this day, if I'd taken a different brand or a different type, is there some sort of additive in that vitamin that my body was like, we are not available for this, that I ignored because you get sick in pregnancy, that then in the second one, because I'd been fine, like, and we don't know, because so many times like people say to you, oh, you're going to get this. And I know from being a client and doing the RCP with you as a client, when we've introduced things, because I'm the queen of doing everything at once, even though I say small changes, like, why do you think I say this, people? You're like, these are the things that might happen. And then we can adjust when you're taking this as a result of, or we can see how your body responds rather than just ignore it because Kristan told me to take it.
Exactly. You got to listen to your own body. And something that I hear from time to time is people look at the full picture of the root cause protocol and the various things that we suggest you stop and the various things we suggest you start. And they're like, but how can doing this help you, Suzanne, and help me? We're different people, right? How can a one size fits all, in quotation marks for those not watching the video, you've got
to watch the video, people. We have not even alluded to the unicorn behind Kristan yet. So if you're listening, there is seriously a giant unicorn.
There is a unicorn in the room. Well, maybe we should do an outtake for the video and not, do a cut for the actual podcast so that people have to, at the end, we'll explain the unicorn.
Yes. So sorry, back to what you were saying.
Yes.
How can it be a one size fits all if it really is the root cause? Because we have different lifestyle circumstances. So This sounds a bit like baloney.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to say the thing that people are thinking.
Yeah. Chemistry be the same
hang on,
as
it
yours?
Cut out for 1 second. Can you go back?
Oh, yep. How can my biochemistry be the same as yours and the next person and the next person to need these different things all the same? The thing is that exactly what Sue's just been saying, well, the amount of one component that I need, my body burns through magnesium. So with time, I've experimented and I found that I take a lot compared to the next person that might be a similar size to me, similar stature, similar activity. They may not need as much. And so the RCP is what you make it. You tailor and you listen to your body. And most of us have not listened to our bodies. Prime example, what you've just shared. don't listen to those cues. And we're trained culturally from very young to not listen to what feels good, what our body is craving. We're still going to do a craving episode at some point. I think we alluded to that in one of the others. But you need to really tune in to what does my body need now? And you learn to go very systematically and go, right, okay, so I'm going to start with yucca juice. We've talked about this. Today we're not going to go into yucca juice too much.
It's
but it's
coming.
otherwise known,
it's coming.
It's
the
coming.
Adrenal cocktail.
We've got it planned. But it's otherwise called the adrenal cocktail, and it's basically a healthy electrolyte drink. But how can that make a difference to you, Suze, and to me when we need different things? Well, I've tailored mine over time and found particular recipe that suits my body better, and that's different potentially from Suze and the next person.
It is actually. So what I love about Kristan's website is she has the like the base recipe and then other alternatives, and then encourages you to see how you feel taking them. But the thing I also want to circle back to is, this might be the world's most basic question, but I can't be the only one thinking it. When you talk about minerals, like most people would have heard about vitamins, like we all here, you know, have vitamins or take your vitamins, or are you getting your vitamin C and vitamin D and etc.
Yep.
But I haven't really heard anyone talk about minerals until I met you. So, and them being like the forgotten building block or something. Because when you were saying that the constituents is in like the basics is the same, but the reason it's different is how much each body requires of it. Yeah. Like, tell me a little bit about minerals and how they differ from vitamins and the like.
That is a very good question. And we do look at vitamins as well. So a good point to bring that up, because I focus more on the mineral side, but the vitamins are really important too. But we want it from food sources. So minerals are, think of dirt out of you go to the soil. Now, I don't want anyone to go and eat dirt for the sake of it right now. That's not where I'm headed.
I thought I was the only one who would have thought that, but probably not.
No, I'm pretty sure everyone would have. So minerals are in the soil. The plants absorb the soil. We eat the plants, or we eat things that eat plants, and we get those nutrients. There are some that are macronutrients, some that are micro. So we need more or less of different things. Everyone will have heard of calcium at some point. Most people will have heard of magnesium, even if you don't know what these things are or do in the body. Most of the time you will have heard of iron, again, especially if you've been told that you might be anemic or low iron. But copper is often left out of that. And sometimes people go to the doctor or to an integrative health physician or different naturopaths, different practitioners, and get told they've got too much copper. That's something that I do hear, not all the time, but often enough. They can be copper toxic. We take a bit of a different stance, and I'm not going to go into too much complexity here, but there are different perspectives that come, and it's very important for everyone to understand that the RCP is based on huge amounts of research that is out there, huge repository. So if you're inclined towards researchy stuff and wanting to understand the details, we can make sure that we hook you up with some links to go to that. And in fact, we can put it in the notes. I can give you a link.
Let's talk about that towards the end, because I know you guys have a course as well that I want to ask you about, because some people, that depending on who and where your interest is listening to the show, and also in your life in general. Like, I know for me, there's some things that I'm fascinated by and I want to know the ins and outs, the intricacies, and I'm like, yes. And there's other things I'm like, just tell me what to do, but not in a way that I'm absolving myself of responsibility. That is in like, I don't need to know the ins and outs. So the basics of, okay, I loved how you said there's minerals in the soil. Doesn't mean go eat dirt, people. But our body absorbs those minerals, and our bodies tend to naturally have, like, when, and magnesium is one, as you said, most people would have heard of, like Epsom salts, that kind of thing. What I love about it is our body knows, say Epsom salts bath, how much to absorb through the skin and how much to leave. So even though we all require the magnesium, depending on how our body is stressed or working, it will require different amounts at different times. But if we don't give it these building blocks, and then we try and, you know, supplement with other things, and I think that leads into the cravings. And when we do the cravings episode, will be so well, because often what the body is getting or missing, we don't interpret it correctly. So this is all linked. That's why I love, like, tell me about the RCP. It is the root cause. And so many of us, we don't even know about going to the root cause. We're just looking at the symptom, tiredness, bloated belly, inflammation, and trying to correct or minimize that.
Mm-hmm.
But
And
it's
symptom
like,
management.
yeah. It's like putting a
often
Band-Aid
just-
on, but the bone's
Yeah,
broken underneath. We need to set the bone.
exactly. And so to loop back how that all relates then to the vitamin side of things. So if you have food that, and another little area that I'm super passionate about is regenerative agriculture and where we get our food and that sort of thing. Again, I can talk forever on that. It'll be an episode way later in the future. It's not a huge priority right now, but I can talk forever. My ecologist comes out when I talk about it, the inner ecologist. But when you get the nutrients in the soil, then the food that you eat, or the food that you eat that's eaten the nutritious stuff from the soil, you get the most out of that. So you can either make your own vitamins, or you can get the vitamins out of the food. So in our food system, you might say, well, why don't we have enough vitamin B or C or whatever? Because most people don't have enough of that. Vitamin D, I'll come back to, it's its own little special category on many levels. But when we want to get either the micronutrients, the macronutrients, or the vitamins out of our food, if you've gone and purchased food from broadacre farms that have been farmed and are not rested, and they're given NPK fertilizers and this sort of thing, they're not diverse in the nutrients that we need. They may have some core things, so you're not getting nothing from eating whole foods. Please don't let this be a, firstly, I'm not shaming anyone for getting whatever they can afford in any way, shape, or form. If you have the opportunity to get fruit and vegetables from a farmer who farms in a more traditional way, who puts a lot of focus on what's in the soil and managing that soil, resting the dirt at times, or just different cropping from one monocrop through, harvest it, spray glyphosate or other stuff to kill everything off, start again, that stuff is not optimal. So let's go optimal versus suboptimal. Suboptimal is the really heavily sprayed, really poor soils, that sort of thing. If you can get things that are spray free and in things that haven't had chemicals on it, fantastic. Ideally, you want regenerative agriculture or biodynamics, that sort of thing, where you get the really, you want the microbes in the soil to help the nutrients go into the plant, so that, again, the plants we eat, or the animals that we may consume, eggs or milk, or the animals themselves, that we're all getting the optimal nutrient from wherever it is. And so if we don't have enough copper in the soil, for instance, as a mineral, the plant can't make optimal levels of vitamin C. And there's other pathways where if you've got a limiting mineral, you can't make the nutrient that goes in to make a compound within the plant, or again in us. And so this is a big picture thing. Try and eat fruit, vegetables, like things from scratch, things our grandparents, great-grandparents type thing would have eaten as children. And really aim, that's again part of what we do as the RCP, is educating to help you understand what has changed from many generations ago, where they may have been in a more healthy position on many levels, and understanding the difference. And what we see is that over those generations of convenience food, of supermarket things, of processed, like you're talking about with the prenatals, is the extra bits that may have been inserted there that for whatever reason your body didn't respond to. It can be colors, it can be preservatives, flavors, additives. It's just the fact that it sits on the shelf for ages, or the farming side of things that I was just talking about. So wherever we can, edging towards getting back to basics food-wise, and eating the way our grandparents and beyond may have done, but in a modern version. I'm not saying that I want you to slave in the kitchen for 10 hours a day just so that you get
Ain't
3
nobody
meals
got
on the
time
table.
for that. Can I just interrupt there?
Sure.
What I want to say, or bring back to, is how you made the point of edging back to, because I know for many people, I know when I first came across you as a client and had our session, I walked away with kind of like the hair blown back thing. Like, there is so much I want to change. Let's just go get McDonald's. I'm nothing if not honest, people. And I remember actually saying that to you, because as I said, nothing if not honest. And you're like, Suzanne, let's slow this way down and be like, okay, this is where you want to get to. This is where you are now. And let's start with introducing one thing, which was the yucky juice.
Yep.
And then slowly, because also too, if you did introduce everything at once, and this is something you talk about with your clients, and there is one thing that you react to, like I reacted to whatever it was in that pregnancy vitamin, we don't know which one it is.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's why so many of us, we end up at a point where we're tired, we're exhausted, we're sick of ourselves, and something has to change. And then we change everything, and then we don't feel magically better. And then we're like, well, I'm doing all this meal prep and I'm having all this stuff and I still feel shit, so I might as well do nothing. And then we wonder why we end up in this seesaw. So I love the fact that I really want to highlight for people that Kristan's saying edge our way back. And the other thing is and the other thing I love about working with Kristan is I've worked with naturopaths, nutritionists, people before that I've had the appointment and then go away with like $500 worth of supplements every month. And it's like, how am I going to pay for this? And it's like, it's not the idea to, this is a protocol. Like, although it's called RCP Root Cause Protocol, it's not going to be, here's this swag bag of rattles you have to take every month. It's more about, okay, so ideally this is how you're going to get it. And if you don't have access to it, or if this is, unavailable to you, we can supplement. And here are the ways to do it most cost effectively. It's another thing too. This is about with the yucky juice, which we'll talk about, you have it on your website and you can purchase it, but you're also very clear, here's the constituents if you want to make your own. This is more price effective, because what Kristan and the RCP team are passionate about is setting people up for not needing them and lifelong health, as opposed to other like maybe we should have called this episode RCP is not an MLM, because MLMs are like, we want you to buy our 50 million things and wear our t-shirts and hand out our badges and because that's how we get rich. It's more about people being enriched in their lives, not padding your guys' bottom pockets at all.
Exactly. It's all about choices. And per the episode 3 about being your own guru, it's literally about finding what works for you, for your family, for your situation, whatever it might be, and working towards it. So when I first came across this with my youngest being a baby, we couldn't afford to do a whole lot of anything. We'd just gone to all the specialists, all the things, and I wasn't working. I'd been made redundant from my job. And I just started, I think, doing Thermomix sales, which is I was going to say just before that I make all my food from Thermomix from scratch. Well, not all my food, most of my food from scratch in the Thermomix. And so it's a tool, a kitchen tool, very useful one. Go look it up. I'm not going to sell you anything. If you don't know what it is, there's another that can be struck as an MLM thing. It's not, but it's an amazing kitchen appliance that can help. I didn't have a big income to be able to go do all the things. And we did go to a naturopath and she was very respectful, but still gave us a couple of things that didn't help, didn't solve anything. So I was really apprehensive to do much, but I could do one thing for me that helped my youngest and then gradually roll that out. And I could look at my pantry and go, right, I'm eating really basic foods. So I was on 15 foods at this point in time. Every day. That's all I ate. The same meals for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day, because otherwise the baby would react to changes in that. And so you can meet the RCP wherever you are at. And so for me, could I have jumped to straight go and do organic veggies or spray-free or produce or making all the different foods that my grandparents may have made? No, not at that point. But what I could do is start to find things locally, is start to find the best quality produce that I could find that was maybe closer to home, didn't have storage for a long time, or it looked lots of different things. I actually joined a co-op, a food co-op, and started.
I thought you said a cult.
No.
Food
just to be very clear, co-op, a cooperative. Just to be very, very clear.
So I just thought I better need to see, because if I heard it, maybe somebody else did too.
Yeah, totally. And so what that meant was, and you know what? I drove an hour to meet up with the person who did the ordering, because that was better use of my time and a bit of petrol money than to go to the shops to buy things. So we would buy nuts, or by this stage I could have nuts, I think, but core raw ingredients. but I could get it organic by doing it where we shared. So 5 kilograms of something, I couldn't go and buy 5 kilos of organic gluten-free flours, but I could spend a kilo on that, and then a few of us just share that 5 kilo bag. And so I've been doing that for years, and that makes it affordable. It's cheaper than the supermarket. So you get very creative and you find a way to do these things. And that's what I really want to emphasize is this is not a sudden overnight change. This is learning what you can do, where you're at that point in time, and knowing that there are other things that you can take on when you're ready to take them on.
I love this so much. I'm just looking at the time. So if someone's listening to this and they're like, okay, I want to know more about the RCP, what would you say are the main pathways into, like, obviously keep listening to the podcast.
Yes.
But if you're like, actually,
sure.
I want to immerse myself in this, or like, what are the options that they have?
Yeah. So on the Root Cause Protocol website, and so twofold. Firstly, my website, I've got a lot of resources. If you just want to dip your toe in and just get some broad, high level, what does this mean type things, I've got plenty to get you started there. Also, parallel to that and complementary to that, on the Root Cause Protocol website, we'll include a link to download. We've got a handbook, and the handbook is like your RCP Bible. It's a 50-page document. Please don't let that be scary. It's a step-by-step guide that has a list of the things we suggest you stop, a list of the things that we suggest you start, and then if you want to look into more detail of how you do the application bit, that's got more detail in that. It's designed to be for people that don't understand this and are just beginning. So it's written to meet you where you're at. You don't need to look through every single thing in that straight away. In fact, I'd encourage you to just, there's phases, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and some other bits and pieces. So use that to look into that side of things. If that's where, like you were saying before, Suze, just tell me what to do. Okay, I'm curious enough to, maybe I want to dabble a bit in this. You can do that.
So can I just interrupt there? I've got a question. That handbook, is that a paid resource?
Free download.
Oh, wow. So it's totally free, people. So yes, get on that.
Yeah, so it's a free download. We do add you to our mailing list, but we promise to not spam you with incessant upsell of anything or whatever. We do email occasionally. We give you updates on events and other stuff to help you, again, find your way. You can unsubscribe if you really want to, but it's designed to be a helping guide, not a we're going to spam you with emails to buy this and do that.
I can second that. They don't email a lot. And I think you've even emailed an updated handbook when you've done a new version, which
Absolutely.
I really appreciated. So then, okay, so from here, the pathway, for the DIYers, download the handbook, read into your heart's content, start that. But for the people who are like, okay, like DIY is not my jam.
Yep.
From what I can gather, and correct me if this is wrong, there's 2 optional pathways. One would be to work with a consultant such as yourself. So you have your supporting balance team, or there's other consultants who are like, okay, this is what I've got going on in my family. These are my symptoms. What do you suggest, to have that support and accountability to make the changes? Or you have a program which goes to people who want to know the whole gamut of ins and outs of, okay, what does this mean? And, all the geek out on the facts. You have that as well. Would that be the main 2 pathways? Well, 3, DIY, work with a consultant, or do some training, or is that wrong?
That's pretty well nailed it. So if you work with a consultant, be it myself, my team, or someone else in the directory of people that we've got, we'd recommend that you get hair analysis done and some blood tests done, ideally. Again, we can make arrangements if we don't have that, but honestly, for you to get the best outcome, it actually makes a big, big difference to get that. And that's what you and I have done. So back in our time, we got you to do those tests, and it helps you to understand how everything that I've been talking about today connects to you and understand your situation. Again, it comes to how does this thing that's a one size fits all relate to me? There's
I remember from the hair analysis, was there 11 minerals or something that came back through that?
Something like that.
And I remember 8 of them of mine were funky, and it was like, oh, no wonder I feel so shit.
Pretty much. Most
Yes.
people are either well below the optimal line or well above. And it may be that some are above and some are below for any
They would be
given
compensating
individual.
when you think about it. It's like
Absolutely.
kind of like if you injure your left leg, your right leg will compensate. And then sometimes people go and get like knee surgery or whatever. And then the other side ends up stuffed because it's overworked. So
Exactly.
the hair analysis, the blood tests, and then from there you can more
conversation.
personalize the introduction of things to help bring those
and
levels back into balance.
Help you understand what's going on for you. And then you're correct. The other one is doing the training a little bit more on the DIY if you want. There's also within the handbook, there's lots of information, but the RCP website has heaps of, speaking of podcasts, not to send you to millions of other podcasts, but the guy behind this whole thing, I've talked of his name before, Morley Robbins. He is prolific with interviews and podcasts. If you want to hear from the guru, the researcher, the guy who gets the biochemistry, Morley has a really gentle way about explaining pretty complex things. And so there's all sorts of different podcasts that are aimed at different focus points and that sort of thing. Go and look at our media area. Go and look at our webinar archive where he and I was going to say,
you have webinars on everything and they are leveled. Here we go again, making up words today, but from, intro to advanced, and you can listen in to the level that, suits the information that you're after. So absolutely. I love this. It's kind of like, it reminds me of, did you read Goosebumps when you were a kid?
Yeah.
Those choose your own adventure books. It's like, okay, I'm feeling these things. I want to look at, the root cause of it. Here is all this information and I can choose which pathway. So the one you haven't really covered yet is the training. So the RCP training. So can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yep. So let's say you're a practitioner or someone that's like, give me the details. We have got you covered. So leading from the area that I was alluding to just a moment ago, we have a resources area. There's literally a heading that says resources. So in that area, go to your heart's content. And one of the things also is join us. And you can come and join us in our institute. So what we do is we've got a 16-week course where we dig very deep into the biochemistry. We dig deep into understanding what the biochemistry has got to do with stress response, that sort of thing. And if you want to be a consultant who can make a difference in other people's lives, like what I do and my team do, you can do those. You learn how to do the consults and structure things and that sort of stuff. There's a lot. We have 3 different people that do the course, typically, as in 3 groups of people. We have the everyday person who just wants to understand for their own reference, what does this stuff mean? How does this apply? That sort of thing. They may support themselves, a family member, or, just their sort of family group. Then we have everyday people like myself who didn't have a background as a practitioner, but knew that from the start, I was like, I want to make a difference. I was already helping people by sharing the information and explaining the concepts that I had learned, and it was a natural progression for me. So if you feel like you want to perhaps a career change or something like that, you can do it and learn how to become a practitioner in this field and then open a business or that sort of thing in that area. You may already be a practitioner. We have people from dentists to pharmacists to physicians to nurse practitioners to naturopaths to masseurs to you name it. We have seen all sorts of, I love it when the pharmacists come in, so fully trained as pharmacists, and they know a lot more probably biochemistry wise than we will ever know. And they sit there, and we've had people with masters or 2 master's degrees, PhDs come in and go, they never taught us this at university. And
oh wow,
the everyday people will go, I get it. And they can go and work in it. Speaking of choose your own adventure, we designed the course to meet people where they're at, to give them what they need, when they need. And we have tutors in place who are there to weekly, you meet with your tutor in smaller groups. We have big weekly things where you come together and myself and or Morley are there answering questions on a particular topic of the week. But we also get you to do tutorial sessions where you're in a smaller group, easier to ask questions and that sort of thing. So you're really heavily supported in your journey. And when you finish the 16-week course, you actually get a trial for 6 months in our alumni where you continue that learning. So once you finish this course, it's not done and dusted. You actually continue to learn, just like you continue to learn how to implement the RCP for the long term. You continue to learn how to best help other people, to help yourself and so forth in the alumni, in that trial period and beyond.
I love this. I have questions.
Go for it.
So have you ever had like someone come in and go, I just want to learn about this purely for personal reasons, for like, or to support my family, and then be like, oh my gosh, and start a business? Like, do people
Absolutely.
transition? Like once you come in on those 3 areas, you're not kind of like cemented, like concretized, this is your pathway?
No, not at all. And interestingly, that happens more than you might expect. Someone who comes in, no, I'm just doing it for, like me, if I was in the early days, for my daughter. Oh, I'm coming in for, it's often for a family member, just so that I can understand that. And then you see the switch and they're like, I could actually do this. Hang on a minute.
I love
and
that.
Often they're superb consultants in the end because they don't have the things holding them back that others may have had.
Yeah, they don't need to unlearn
beliefs.
the stuff that they've been taught or read that
right.
has, and then had that person. I think personal experience for any career is people have a passion or an understanding. Like I used to coach weight loss, and genetically gifted skinny people who have never struggled with their weight, just saying, just don't eat McDonald's, never helped me. But someone who's like, I get it, that's a whole different story. So they can often make the best practitioners. So I love that. My next question is, so you're saying there's like a training and there's tutorials. So say someone's like, oh my God, Kristan, I want this thing. How do they go about, first of all, how do they go about signing up? And secondly, once they've like signed up and said, here, take my money, what happens then?
Yep. Okay. So they can sign up if you go to the Join Us button on the RCP website, and we can include a direct link in what we'll have with this episode today. There's heaps more FAQs there. So if you have a question, I'm 99% sure someone else probably will have asked it. You can always email our support team if you can't find the answer there, but go to the page.
Hang on, it's just cutting out a second. So sorry. Go to the support, look at the frequently asked questions, and then you blanking out. And
99% sure that your questions will be answered there. And it talks all about the time commitment, and because that's a big thing. How much time do you need each week? How does this work? All that sort of stuff. So read that. If you want to, just click the button to sign up. If you go there at the time, we're in open registrations at the moment. And in mid-January 2023, registrations will close for our next intake. That begins in February of 2023. But no matter when you're listening to this, we run 2 cohorts per year. And so if you listen at a different time of year, registrations may be open. So please go to that link, check out the details, and it will tell you when the next intake is opening anyway, so that you've got that detail. So you'll either be able to hit register straight away, or register your interest. And so if you put your name on that list, again, I promise we're not going to spam you, but we will give you the first insight into when registrations will be open for the next intake, whenever that may be. So that's how you do the doing bit of registering. Once you commit, you pay for it, and then go in. And we do have payment plans. Susan and I talked about this before we started today. I'm not going to give you the price right now, only because it's on the website, and I don't want to make it stressful for someone who listens to this podcast and then goes and signs up, and it's not at the time that we're recording this.
Yeah, so Kristan is all about price transparency, as am I. The current price will be listed on the website depending on when you listen to it. So it's not some secret thing. It's just that, you might find this 6 or 12 months from now and the price might be different. So pricing transparency is there. The other thing I want to ask is, so you mentioned tutorials, and you mentioned a global, like a worldwide audience. So I'd imagine there's time zone, like people aren't going to have to get up at 2 a.m. to do their tutorial, or?
No, tutorials are very much, you can register, and once you sign up, you actually get encouraged, please go and sign up for a tutorial now, and you get to choose what's going to work for you within your routine. You want to pick one that you can make generally every week. If you've got an odd thing here or there, life happens, that's fine. But generally speaking, aim for one which is at a time that's going to work for you throughout the course, and you'll have information at your fingertips then about what the dates are of the different parts of the classes and that sort of thing. But you also, with the live class, that is held once a week at a set time. And so for me in Brisbane, it starts off at 6 a.m. on a Friday, which is a little challenging for some, depending if
It'd be
you're
late
in Australia.
in the evening for the UK and afternoon for America, I imagine. So that's the only real time that you can get global, or poor WA, like, Western Australia,
Yeah.
I feel for you. But yeah, those are recorded, so you don't miss out if you can't
Absolutely.
attend live.
And if something happens and you can't attend your tutorial, they are all recorded as well. So never
even
fear.
better.
All of the things are always made available for the best experience. We encourage you to be there live if that is a possibility. We have had students which have done the whole thing solely from recordings, and they've thrived beautifully. So don't feel that time differences, if you're in Western Australia, South Africa is another challenging one.
It would be. Yeah, of course. Yes.
Yeah.
So my last question, because I'm looking at the time and knowing we have to wrap up soon. You mentioned like a certification or something at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a requirement? So if someone has decided, actually, I just want to do this for me and my family, do they have to do, is that an extra step? Does it cost extra, or is it like, I'm sure it's all explained, but it's just something that I would be thinking of if I was looking to enroll?
Absolutely. So everybody has the opportunity to do quizzes each week, and they're not designed to be scary quizzes that are going to trip you up. We literally want to help. Yeah, exactly. There's no anyone watching.
I'm doing the ha fingers for anybody listening.
Evil Suze is peeking through. No, the quizzes are actually designed to help you understand, do I get this or do I not? And to give you then options to help make sure that you understand a concept. Excuse me. And then we also get people to do an assessment. What do we call it? An intro consult. So you're coached on what that means, how to do it, all that kind of thing. But it's about 35 to 45-minute discussion with a friend, family member, a classmate, whatever. And that is part of the assessment. Now, the assessments do evolve over time. So I'm going to leave it at that for now, again, in case someone is listening to this later on. But at the time of publishing, that's the summary of the assessments. More detail is on the website anyway. But if you choose not to do that, that's okay, because you don't have to do that part. That's not mandatory in any way. You won't be able to register and get the free alumni at that point in time. But what we have had is in the past, especially for people that are doing it for self-interest, or if they're a practitioner who really wants to understand it but not necessarily integrate it into their business at that time, is that you can do the course at a refresher rate. It's a not full price. And then you can join in and do the assessments as a part of that. If you've not done the assessments before, you can do it in a future round. And then you can also then get your alumni trial and everything upon completion at that point in time.
I love that so much, because it really is setting you up for success. Like the idea of the quizzes isn't to trick you out. And the idea of like having a intro consult recorded and feedback given on it for whether you create it as a business or just helping friends and family, that is powerful indeed. Because I know as a coach and coach trainings I've done, sometimes a lot of us have bad memories from school of assessment, go hide in the corner. But no, this is so that, we can see, or you can see, I say we, I'm not part of the RCP, but just the language comes that people are, picking up what you're putting down and understanding that so that they can, pass that along in the world in the best value for themselves, their family, and their future clients if they so choose. So I love that. Is there anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
I think that's pretty much any of it, all of it rather. If you're curious and we haven't covered it, wherever you're consuming this, you're welcome to put a comment and ask a question, or contact me through the details that will again be with this podcast or video, wherever you're watching it. Just drop me a line and ask. We also have an amazing support team. I don't have to be the one that answers your question when it comes to a lot of this. It's more our customer service team are armed and ready, able to help you wherever you may need assistance. So
I actually encourage that. So and you put it in the show notes, but what is it? Support at
rcp123.org.
Oh, I love that. Support at RCP Was it .123?
No, just rcp123.org. And fun fact, if you go to rcp123.org, it will redirect you to the RCP website as well.
I'm going to do that as soon as we get off here. I love that. But if anyone listening, I really encourage you, and this is just a Susism, but take it or leave it. If you find something you want to know more about, go to the person's website and go to their contact us, because although we do try and keep on top and abreast of where our podcast is put, we miss things because notifications get lost or whatever. And sometimes I know that I'm the prime person. It's like, they don't care about me. And it's like, no, they just didn't see it. But my email, baby, my email, I'm on all the time. That's why I love, I'm different from most entrepreneurs. I don't do a lot in my DMs because, I have personal opinions about that. But email is where, businesses is conducted. And then if you email the support team, that is what they do. And imagine the support team is, I was going to say manned, but that's sexist, hosted, positioned, looked after by people all around the globe, so you're more likely to get a much faster response than to necessarily wait for an individual who may or may not have seen their comment on Facebook. So go to the source, baby.
Yeah. And just to add to that, there's a team who help. They do have lives outside of working for the RCP. I know that might be shocking. So if you don't get a reply straight away, especially if it's at the holiday season time, it may be a little delayed. But if they can't answer your question, then they will get the right person to answer your question. They will get their attention, whether that's myself or another team member. So if you feel that you've got a really curly one, you can still get me through that avenue, but I may not be the best person to answer that question anyway. So that's where the beauty of using the support team really is.
Yeah, if they can't help you, they will redirect you to those who can and get back to you in a timely-ish manner, but not like, huzzah. They're not like a wizard. They're not talking Hogwarts here, people.
we are an amazing growing business, but we do not have 24/7 customer service. And I say this semi-jokingly, but people don't realize unless you say, and we are still family owned, so to speak. It's not a big conglomerate where we've got support agents that are, big call center-y type things. We have a very good, close-knit group, but
that's what I love about it. It's just that feel and that care, and the care that you put into your website, to updating your frequently asked questions, to giving this manual, you literally giving it away for free. So there is that DIY goosebumps option if people want to take that. But if you want the either just personal journey to work with a consultant yourself, your team, or anyone else in the directory, there's that. Or if you're actually, I want to know the ins and outs and upside downs and whatever, you can do that as well. It really is about advocating for yourself and having all these avenues available for it, which is, just lines up with my passions. So anything else before we wrap up?
No, I think that's...
Do you want to say anything about the unicorn before we stop?
Oh, yes. So for those who have taken the time to listen this whole way through, so I've just been moving my office around, as you may see for those on watching the video, some little piles of things over one shoulder. And although generally it's pretty good, most things have been put where they need to go now, there's still more changes to come, which is very exciting. But when Susan and I first jumped on, the room is really echoing because there's the furniture that's normally here is not here anymore. And so that normally absorbs some of it. The headphones help a lot, but apologies if it's a bit tinny. But we decided, I think it was actually Scott who said it.
It was Scott,
like, put the unicorn in. And so my daughter for Christmas got this giant, it's literally as big as she is as a 10-year-old, blow up unicorn, which you can see here. And there's this little bit to the side, which is very odd. It's actually a hose connection. So out of the spire of this, it sprays water.
Oh my goodness, that is so cool.
It's so awesome. But we jokingly have added the unicorn to supervise this discussion. It's a very important discussion, but there's even unicorns who blow things out their horns, keeping us company. Just as a soft furnishing to try and deaden the tinniness. That's actually why the unicorn came to spend some time with us today.
We make our podcast with a whole lot of love and no perfection, people. So thank you for listening today. If you have any questions at all, grab an email, send it through. And as always, if you've enjoyed this episode, please share it up. Thank you to the people who have been sharing up and tagging us in and letting us know your takeaways. It's super, super, super exciting.
Yeah. Thank
Bye
you
for
for your
now.
time and for listening.